the Rangers Journal Night.
Welcome everyone to the Rangers Journal News Show. It is Friday the 29th of August and it's been a week and not one of the good ones like you want. It's been a bit of a horrible week for us. There is an awful lot of news to get through today, so I'll keep my introduction brief and introduce everyone. Doug, how are you today, mate?
I'm good, thanks. I'm going to apologise in advance to anyone who thinks I'm not paying attention. I've got the Euro draw live to my other screen here, so if it looks like my attention is elsewhere, it's because I'm getting that news for you.
I thought you were going to apologise for going an hour and 20 minutes last night talking about football, but I actually enjoyed it.
I'll not apologise for that. No.
Billy, how are you, mate?
Good. Also got the Euro draw sitting here, and I think we have nothing to fear but fear itself, and the draw, and football, and Sunday, and everything else.
That's it. And last but not least, Jack, welcome aboard, mate.
Yep, I've also got the draw opener in our tab, just waiting for the inevitable draw against Lille and Hamza to run riot against us.
Am I the only one that just hasn't got it on the screen, I guess? I was just relying on one I used to have it, and you can let us know. Let's touch on it briefly at the beginning of the pod. Doug, you've thankfully prepared us a little slide for the possible teams we could face. Am I right in saying there's two from each pot in each group? Is that right?
Yep, two from each.
So out of pot one, Doug, let me ask you first of all who you want to avoid in there.
So anyone in the top half, basically. They're in order of coefficient rating. So basically, they start with the hardest and goes down. Although you do get anomalies in there. Obviously, Aston Villa are at the bottom of that, and I don't think we'd necessarily want them. I'd probably be looking at, I'd want one of the three of Zagreb, Betis, and Salzburg. Avoid the rest, ideally. Because none of them are particularly like super glamorous. Roma are a romantic team, so I wouldn't mind that from that perspective. But I mean, Porto we played a couple of times, Feyenoord we played a couple of times. Avoid Lille for obvious reasons. So yeah.
Roma away, I would quite fancy going to that, to be honest with you. That Olympic Stadium, isn't it? I've been there for a Lazio game. Billy, I'll get you to look at pot two. Obviously, we can't get Celtic, but other big teams in there, Fenerbahce, who we've obviously faced, Red Star we've faced, Lyon, Pilsen are there, Ferencváros, Tel Aviv. Anybody you'd like to get in that draw? And you're muted.
Most of the teams in there look not bad. I'd want to avoid the likes of Forest from a points point of view. It's quite fun to have that sort of test yourself against the EPL.
You're in pot three, though, Billy.
Sorry?
Pot two, I was asking about.
Sorry, I thought I'm going down the way. Sorry, my bad. I mean, you would say Pilsen would be a good draw based on the fact that we actually got through against them, but law of averages would make me even a wee bit apprehensive with the current team playing them, because we did get through, but we kind of got through riding our luck. We could have been 3-0 down. Jack Butland had a screamer, and arguably we've regressed. That was, in some ways, that was our best game. And I remember one of the Pilsen players saying after the first match going, we didn't see that coming. We didn't see Rangers playing that way. And he was right, because we haven't really in any other match. I mean, I always fancy our chances against teams from the Israeli league, just because it's not as high level. I'd rather avoid Lyon and I'd rather avoid a trip to Greece, to be honest. Red Star Belgrade aren't what they were, but it's still quite a tough place to play. Again, similar to avoid Fenerbahce, and it's weird. Instinct tells you a Portuguese side is something you want to avoid, but Rangers have just such a good record against Portuguese teams. It's kind of freaky. I don't really understand if it's our combination of physical and technical versus their technical physical thing, but we always seem to do well. I wouldn't mind getting Pilsen or Ferencváros or Maccabi Tel Aviv, kind of what Doug was saying about the lower. It's a pity we can't get the second bottom team, because that would be, if we get through to the knockout stages, can you imagine playing a knockout tie in Europe against that lot? But I'd take any of the bottom four, to be honest, and avoid the top four.
Fair enough, Jack. I'll bring on to pot three. Who's your Let me read through Young Boys, Basel, Midtjylland, Freiburg, Ludogorets, Nottingham Forest, Sturm Graz, FSSB, and Nice.
Yes, it's a bit of a mixed bag. I'd ideally like to avoid the two Swiss sides. They're usually quite good at this level. Midtjylland, I remember us playing them under Gerard. Went to the away game. That was a good experience. Again, they're another team that signed well. They've got that good trading model. So yeah, it's not looking great. I don't know if it's just because we're very downbeat, but maybe Sturm Graz and Ludogorets are the two you'd want out of there. Stoya, maybe. Wait, did we play them last year? We've done okay. Nice as well last year, but we just seem to be regressing from last year. So I don't even know if that's a barometer you can use. I would like to avoid Forest. I know we've done well against Man United and Spurs last year, but those were two teams having an absolute howler of a season, and Forest were really good last year. So I don't really like the idea of Chris Wood going up against our defence at the moment.
Not that Chris Woods that I remember anyway. Yeah, pot 4, Doug, I'll come back to you. What's your thoughts on pot 4?
Anyone but the top 3, I suppose. I think we can do well against most of the teams in that, and I mean you would like to expect it if we're pot 1. We should be capable against most of the teams in the lower end. But I think again, Bologna, Celta Vigo, Stuttgart, all rich teams with history, good teams. Not that any of the rest are necessarily all that easier. I mean, Panathinaikos, obviously, I think a few of us have said, could easily have knocked us out earlier had they had their shooting boots on. Malmo, we've played well against recently. Dutch teams, I always think, if you avoid the major Dutch teams, you've always got a good chance against, because if you're more physical and a bit more aggressive, they sometimes find that hard to deal with. Again, Kimbran, good teams, but teams that I would expect us, at the peak of our powers anyway, to be able to beat.
Well, Doug, I'll defer to you to keep an eye on that. Just jump in when you see us mentioned, or you notice any change, because usually they do have a 10-15 minute spiel before they start doing the draw and explaining things.
They're chatting away now.
Good stuff. Right, Jack, we'll get on to the breaking news of today, and that's that the club confirmed that Hamza Egeman is away to Lille. We fully expected it. He did pass his medical, funnily enough. Obviously, bit of a mess last weekend. The manager basically accusing them not coming on, engineering this move. There's been a few comments I've seen online blaming Russell Martin for this. Me personally, I think that he would have engineered this move no matter who the manager was. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you on that point. I don't think the manager's helped the situation, but I think this has been coming since the summer. From what I understand, he's had his agent in his ear since the midway point of last year, telling him, we can get you this much, we can do this for you, can do that. And a young boy at his age, coming from Morocco, it's his first year playing European football, his head's going to be turned by these numbers put in his head, and you can't really blame him for it. I don't like the way he's went about it, refusing to come on. We've seen that with Morelos years ago when he was linked to moves away. He kept his head down, kept playing. So I don't like the fact that he refused to come on, but that should have been dealt with months ago. There's clearly been issues with Egeman stretching back to pre-season, the visa issues, the fitness issues. It's clearly been in the pipelines for a while. We should have known this was coming. We should have dealt with this in June or July. So I don't understand how it's been let to get to this stage at the window where we're now scrambling around looking for a replacement. And I know we'll probably touch on who we're linked with later on, but I don't think that'll be enough. I think we're definitely going to need, I don't know, I'd like to think we're going to go out and spend money on a recognised starter and a statement signing, because we've not really done that so far this summer, and it's something that we were kind of expecting, and we should expect with the amount of money we brought in, especially for Egeman.
What do you make of that, Billy? The reported 10 point, well, it's actually reported officially as undisclosed, but we're hearing 10.5 million. I think that's 12 million euros. We found out during the week that they had a release clause, which none of us knew about before. But what do you feel about the fee and the kind of profit we've made? Are you happy enough with it?
I mean, the way things stand just now, yeah, the release clause, presuming it existed, people seem to have got in a wee bit of a fankle with that. I wonder if when you have a release clause, Rangers are basically thought at the start of the window that it wouldn't be an issue because we would get more than 10.5 million for him. I think they were hoping that if you have another club come in for someone looking at his potential and some of the goals he scored, they were thinking, well, it'll be a moot point because like we'll get 15 million for him. However, like, you know, if there's a release clause in there, Leal have known about it because clearly his agent and the player wanted to move. And if they've had that information, Leal's had that information. So I suspect that perhaps there's been a bit of brinksmanship from Rangers. And to be honest, I don't mind that. If Leal have come in and went, here's 10.5 million at the start of the window and we've gone, we think we can get more and played hardball, people haven't come in and we've still got the 10.5 million. It seems like we've I do agree with what was said about it. I think a player refusing to play is almost like the worst thing you can do, because you can say you're injured before a game and then you're not going to shaft your teammates mid-match. To say that you're available to warm up and then in the heat of battle when your teammates need you to turn around and go, nah, actually I don't fancy it. To be honest, if that's his attitude, we're well short of him. And I wonder if we've done quite well here. You know, Jack was talking about the visa issues. That was 2 years in a row. We could have made a bigger deal of that and we downplayed it. You add that up with, you know, some of the fitness issues and how he's behaved over this, you actually start to build up a picture of a player who hasn't got a great attitude. You know, for someone, as you know, you're supposed to be young and hungry, and then you maybe get complacent once you've made your money. He already is doing that slightly Morelos thing of, like, you know, beginning to look like a bit of a diva. So I think 10.5 million is probably as much as we could have got. And ultimately, it's a good bit of business. You know, if we paid like 1.5 for him and we've got 10.5, take the money, bank it, get a couple of decent players in and move on. He wasn't going to fit with what Russell Martin wanted anyway. So yeah, happy enough.
Doug, I'll come to you on that. I do see your eyes going back and forward between the two screens, but nothing happening yet.
They appear to have a magician. He's just
right.
He's just
Paul
faffing about with the balls right now. He's just got smoke's coming out of his hands and into one of the pots, and he's now twirled it. Oh, and the balls have disappeared. So we've got nobody.
Great stuff. Well, look, I'll come to you on Igaman as well. The fee reported, happy enough with it, and in the context of this summer, it's been quite successful with regards to player trading.
Yeah, it has. I mean, obviously, you, as well as Igaman, we've obviously got rid of Jeff Day, and you know, both of them only in for 12 months, and we've significantly increased the figure that we've paid for them. So, you know, in terms of the transfer model, it's perfect stuff. The only disappointing thing about Hamza has obviously been the kerfuffle that's come along with it. Like I say, just disappointed with the how it's ended. He was a popular player. He got a lot of fan backing. He also got a lot of club backing. I've said before, talking about him, you know, obviously we brought in a translator specifically for him. We brought in a coach that was seemingly specifically for him. Gave him all that time at the beginning to ease his way into the team. So to have it kind of end sourly like that, it's a bit of a shame. But as I say, at the end of the day, 10.5 million is a good chunk of change for us, for any player. Just this bizarreness with the release clause. I mean, if they've in a way it makes sense, because I don't know if maybe I'm wrong, but I seem to remember Lille initially coming in like at 6 to 8 million or something like that, and then there was that story that apparently they wanted to loan him, but they didn't, you know, with no clauses for purchase. And if they were working from a point of, right, we can get him for 10.5 if we activate this release clause, but obviously we want to get the best deal we can, maybe those make a bit more sense now, because the loan deal just seemed totally bizarre if we were looking for 15 million for him. But then a lot of people have said, you know, across multiple pods and networks and things, it's just such a convenient and weird clause to have just popped out in absolutely nowhere. So yeah, bit of a weird one, but I say it's done now. He's gone. You know, I don't necessarily wish him any ill. Hope he goes off and has a decent career. I'm sure he will have a decent career. He's a good player. And hopefully we reinvest that money well. Obviously, we're looking at a couple of players that have been linked at the moment. Miovski seemingly not far off, and the lad from Everton. I can't quite remember how to pronounce his name.
Chermity,
that's the one. Those seem to be the two hot names at the moment. Miovski, I think, will be solid enough. I think he's a kind of a like for like Dessers, in some ways, not necessarily in terms of how they'll play per se, but I think he can score goals, obviously. The other lad, however, is another young player from England, so I think that'll maybe concern a few people. He's not played an awful lot. In fact, I don't think he's actually scored a goal for Everton, which is maybe a bit of a concern. I would like to see us get. Apologies, I can't quite remember who mentioned it. Someone mentioned as I was watching, like a marquee signing. I would quite like that to be maybe in the striking department, someone that we can really look at and just have confidence. Yep, he's going to be the guy that can really help kick us on, assuming we can create any chances for him in the first place, of course. But yeah, I think as far as Egerman goes, glad it's done. Glad we got a decent fee, and hopefully we can reinvest it well.
Jack, we'll go on to Miovski. That's the latest rumour. Obviously, there's been quite a lot of things online that he's having a medical in France, he's having a medical here, he's having a medical in Spain. I'm very happy if that does come to fruition. I think I said in the pod the other night there, I would have liked to have got him before now, but obviously Aberdeen are not going to be particularly easy to deal with. You see the fans' reaction online. There's still an awful lot of. I'm surprised. Actually, maybe I shouldn't be. I just don't read a lot of Aberdeen fan sites, but some of the links have been sent have been really quite disturbing, actually. But what do you think of Miovski coming if it comes to fruition?
Yeah, I like it. He done well at Aberdeen. I think he got just under a goal every 2 games record, and a team that was far worse than the Aberdeen team now, and somehow probably worse than the Rangers team we've got now. But it's all about creating chances for him. If you give him the service, he'll score. He'll score more goals than Egerman scored last year. I think that's pretty safe to say. Good finisher, big, physical, can hold the ball up. It's exactly what you're in theory needing in this system. Whether he actually gets to play much in this system is another matter with the manager. But yeah, I like it. He had a rough year in La Liga, been used as a substitute more often than not. But if we get this boy in, get him starting, he's a proven goal scorer at this level. And yeah, I can't see this one going badly as long as we give him what he needs. In terms of Aberdeen fans, yeah, I spoke about this not long ago. Aberdeen they don't have rivals up there. It's a one club city, so they look for something. And we had a sort of competitive rivalry in the 80s and early 90s, and they've never let go of it. Whereas we kind of see them as an irrelevance because we've obviously got our big rivals in this city. So they're best just ignored. Let them ramble on, and it'll be funny when Miovski inevitably scores against them up there next time we play them.
So, mate, Doug, before I come back to Billy on the striking department, can you just let me know, because I'm not as experienced at it, when using Y-Scout, can you see a player's availability?
Off the top of my head, I can't think. You can see his average minutes. So
it's just I'm wondering how often Egerman was actually available for us, and what a difference it would make if there was a player who wasn't quite as niggly injury prone. But if it's not there, that's fine. But Billy, I'll come to you on Chermity. That for me is a worrying signing if it comes to fruition. It seems to be rather the
just to interrupt 3 seconds. We've just been drawn with Roma.
Okay, that's the one we wanted, is it?
Yeah, totally.
Does it say it's not got the fixtures yet? Does it? Wouldn't say if it's a home or away yet.
Away. Oh wait, sorry, that's away for Roma, so that'll be home for us.
Oh well, I did fancy a trip to Rome for that. Billy, I was going to come to you in Chermity. Yeah, he isn't a player I know a lot about, other than he's not scored, not played a lot. To be fair as well. Do you know anything about him, and is that the kind of signing you'd be hoping to bring in?
I know about him because we're looking to sign him. So I have to contradict Doug. I know he's normally very good in stats, but Chermity did actually score for Everton under 21s in an EFL Trophy group stage game against Mansfield with an extra time penalty. So if that doesn't get your heart rate up, I don't know what does. He looks like a backup striker to Miovski. Of course, it's not an exciting looking strike option. I think it looks data driven to me. It looks like They've looked at how much he runs about, where he goes in the pitch, and they think they can do something with him. It's not a signing in the current atmosphere that we're going to want to see, because there is this building sense that
sorry to interrupt. We're being drawn right now, and we have just been drawn with Roma, Porto, Braga, Ferencváros, Ludogorets, Sturm Graz, Genk, and Brann. So that is officially our team. Not terrible. Two is the worst maybe from pot one, but I think the rest is pretty decent. So just to go over that again, that's Roma at home, Porto away, Braga at home, Ferencváros away, Ludogorets at home, Sturm Graz away, Genk at home, and Brann away. The dates and things will come later, but that's what we have so far.
And unfortunately, we don't have Ross to draw that up as a graphic for us, so we'll just have to try and remember it. Bill, yeah, I don't know if you'd finished on him, but I will stay with you. It does leave us in a position where we've lost a man, but there's also heavily linked rumours that Dessers is going to be away. What do you think about that?
Well, I think Mark Dewey made a good point, and I keep mangling his name, I'm sure, but I'm going with the best I can. But he made a decent point in the chat that you can make an argument that actually Miovski is not necessarily an upgrade on Dessers, because Miovski's struggled in a top 5 league. Dessers has done all right when he's been away from Rangers. So the question is, do you want someone who's going to be good in Scotland? And Miovski looks like he's got, 32 goals in 77 games, so that he looks like he will produce. Chermiti just looks like a backup, and unless he does something, at the moment he's just basically a name in the squad, and it's difficult to get excited about that. So no harm to the kids. Maybe we see something, but 22 games, no goals. There's a sort of slight whiff of the Rabbi Matondo there, someone who went for 12 million and might be in decline. One thing, just before we move on to Europa, just to touch on the Miovski stuff from Aberdeen fans. I saw former Aberdeen player Ash Taylor had put up a post about Miovski coming to us with the message "filth" on it, which coming from someone who played for Tranmere Rovers, Colwyn Bay on loan, Northampton, Walsall, Bradford, and finished his career so far at FCB Magpies in Europa in Gibraltar. So in other words, a winner. I think that's pretty rich. I also think it's quite irresponsible language. We live in quite febrile times, and I think to be putting that up as a message about a former colleague and player coming to Rangers, it might score him a few likes on Twitter, X, but I don't think it's very responsible or professional, and I think stuff like that needs slapped down, to be honest. So, I haven't seen the stuff you've seen, Billy, but if that's what's coming from a former player, I shudder to think what the Aberdeen fans are producing, because we've all seen the kind of things that they do when we go up there. So I think people need to maybe have a think before they try to win a few likes on X, to be honest.
No, you're quite right. It's quite irresponsible, to be fair, especially a former colleague, a player, to be doing that. Yeah, quite embarrassing. Right, Doug, thank you very much. You have created a graphic for us, so let's just put this up so everyone can see and get it in a mental note in their head. No dates, obviously, at the moment, but we play Roma at home, which I guess if you want to take anything from it, it's probably the more likely that you're going to take something at home than away. Porto away, we've done okay against Porto, Doug, haven't we?
Yeah, not too bad. I think probably around about even. The ones I can remember anyway.
Yeah. It goes back a long time. I think the Champions League as well. Jack, Braga at home.
Yeah, we've got a good record against Braga. Other than I think away from home, we lost. I remember a game Sakala was horrendous, but we turned it around in the second leg. Won there under Gerrard as well. Been good at home against them. I'm a bit sick of them, but looking forward to playing a Portuguese team again.
Let me just bring this comment up, because I'll defer to you again, Doug. It's the same as last time? Is it top 8 go through and to the final stages, and then there's a playoff for the 8 in the middle?
Yep. So your top 8 go through, then it's the next 24.
24, is it?
Go into your knockouts, and the last 7 or 8 go out. You then have your knockout round, and then those winners of that obviously then go through with the top 8 to the quarters, so on.
Good stuff. Right, Billy, I'll go through a couple. Ferencváros, is that not who Celtic played recently as well?
I think they've played them in the last couple of years. I mean, it's not the thing. I'm looking at this just now and going, like, that looks like a not very. It's got a couple of exciting games, but it looks like a group you could qualify out of. It's kind of it's Schrodinger's Rangers team just now, though. Are we talking about going into this group with the Rangers of the last 5 or 6 years, where we look like a battle-hardened Europa League outfit who should make the knockout stages, and with a wee bit of luck and a fair wind, we go on a run? Or are we talking about this Rangers, which at the moment looks, it's not functioning, it's got a manager that's under siege, it looks like we are not looking at the opposition tactics, but they're looking at ours, and they're figuring out ways to get in behind and score against us. And it's funny because, like, you know, if we go back to the Rangers last season, I fancy our chances of getting out of the group as a minimum. However, if we continue in the current trajectory, we could get potentially a few quite unpleasant results in here, just from solid, technical, like well-drilled teams who will spot our weaknesses and exploit them. So I'm kind of feeling very split in this. You know, it's difficult to know whether to be excited or dread it at the moment.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand. Yes, I mean, I'll keep that up just for another few more seconds, Doug, but I do want to move on to the rest of the stuff we had to talk about. I think if there's enough in there, if the normal Rangers European team turns up, there's enough for us to go, you know, possibly top 8 again.
Absolutely. As I say, I think, you know, Roma and Porto, what we obviously touched on before, would like to maybe have avoided from that perspective, but all the rest, we've played Braga. I was having a quick look up at the back of Ferencváros. We've played twice, won once, lost once. Porto, we played 6 times, won 3, drawn once, lost twice. So, you know, these are teams that we're pretty evenly matched with historically. We've played Sturm Graz before. I'm sure we beat them. What country are they from again? Does anyone remember off the top of their head? I can't quite.
Who's that, sorry?
Austria.
Austrian. Okay, so that's right. You have to look it up by country on transfer market. So Sturm Graz, we've played twice before, won once, lost once. So it was.
That was a while back, though, wasn't it?
Let's see.
Champions League.
2000, 2001.
Thought so.
We lost 2-0, but beat them 5-0 at home. So I mean, this is, as I say, a lot of teams that we're fairly evenly matched with, that we've beaten before, albeit maybe a while ago. So yeah, I think we should definitely be looking at that, given our previous years, and the minimum goal should be to at the very basic get into the knockouts. But I mean, with that collection of teams, I think we could make top 8 again.
Well, we'll move on to the Europa League. Maybe bring it up at the end for folk watching at the end to see again. But we'll talk about a few of the rumoured outs, Jack. Scrolling through the internet this morning, there seemed to be an awful lot of a fallout from Raskin's dad apparently posting some negative stuff on the internet. We're hearing that he's not involved in training for the Old Firm, which for me is mental. Usually he's not the manager, he's the head coach. Head coaches and managers don't usually win against players that popular players do. They mean Barry Ferguson's one example.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a disgrace, to be honest. He was a player of the year last year. He's a Belgian starting international. The fact that he's been moved out the squad for Joe Rothwell in the first place is clearly there's some sort of underlying fitness issue there, or injury issue there, is a joke. I don't understand the thoughts. Raskin is a great player. He's tenacious. He presses. Not the best passer of the ball, but he's neat. He's tidy. I don't understand at all. I mean, there was a team meeting yesterday that wasn't planned. It was kind of after their recovery session. I don't know if something's been said in that's kicked things off, along with also his father's comments online. But the fact that he's apparently been told to go train with a bomb squad of NCL and King when he's by far our best player and was voted that last season is so bizarre. I don't understand the thought at all. That's a guy Martin should be building his team around, not forcing out the team.
Billy, that's what I was going to say to you. The all expectations were if Raskin was going to stay, then you build a team around him and try and get him on a longer contract, maybe take advantage of a higher price in a year or two. But what do you make of this situation?
I mean, I guess my first question is it true? Because I'm not saying it isn't, but the source I saw it from was the Daily Record. Now, maybe there are other sources and maybe there are sources within the club, but when I see something from the Daily Record, I know there is a strong chance it's completely made up. They've just made stuff up in the past that some of the stuff they've made up was factually incorrect and provably factually incorrect at the moment they did it. And people immediately pointed that out in the pulled headlines. So is it true? I don't know. If it's true, it's putting us in a much weaker position on Sunday. And it does call into question Russell Martin's management style, because even if he thinks Raskin's a problem going forward, even if he thinks he needs Raskin out of the side for whatever reason, a good manager should be able to outthink his player. He should be able to think, right, this is where he's at. This is why he's upset. How can I channel it? You could take Nico Raskin seems like a player who is angry just now at how things are going. And a good manager should be able to channel that anger. You know, he should be able to put a keyed up Nicholas Raskin into the side on Sunday and get a performance out of him, even if he's long term thinking, I'll take the money because he's too disruptive for my liking. And I'm not saying Nicholas Raskin is wrong to be disruptive. I'm just saying a manager with a better breadth of experience, I feel should be able to handle the situation. That said, we don't know if it's true, and we also don't know how disruptive Raskin's being, because Martin's been quite complimentary. He's dropped him, but then when Raskin's come on and you know, he's talked about him making more tackles in a second half than the whole of the team. And he's dropped Tav, and he's been complimentary about how Tav's responded. So there's a grey area here where we don't know what Raskin may or may not have said or how disruptive he's been, because as much as the manager should know how to manage the player, that there are lines in terms of how you talk to the manager and what you say to the manager. And when you say it, you know, there are certain things you might say one-to-one that you wouldn't say in front of the team. We don't know any of this just now. What I do know is when I saw that, I thought, I hope it's not true, but my heart kind of sank at the prospect of going into the game on Sunday without Raskin, because he is knitting the midfield. He's running about and filling gaps. He's making tackles. He's launching attacks. And he's kind of showing Joe Rothwell may be carrying an injury and he may come good. But at the moment, he's showing Joe Rothwell up quite a bit. And I'd much rather go into Sunday with Raskin in the side.
Doug, I agree with that. I don't think Rothwell has shown anything close to his form the previous season. I don't know if it's an injury, but the point, it came up in one of the comments, I've missed it now, but there's a good chance that because of the actions of our manager, 2 of our prized assets are going to go for lower than what we should have got for them.
Yep. I mean, we've talked about in the past managers making bold decisions, and I'll give Martin that. If this is all true and he's turning around and saying to these guys, right, you're not on board, so you can go. He's making bold decisions, so I suppose I'll give him that credit. But the issue will be, you know, if things continue on the path that they are on, like you say, we're going to have gotten rid of prized assets, potentially for less money than what we'd have liked, on the basis of a manager that ultimately will lose his job. So it's, if they're being disruptive, then okay, fine. You can't have disruptive players in your squad. I mean, I've heard that, you know, Raskin's on this list, Tav's apparently on this list, and he's been told he can go as well. So, I mean, one of my immediate thoughts is, well, why is he still the captain? As much as I'm a big fan of Tav, again, if he's disrupting the group and the idea is that Martin is the man and he's the one to take the team forward, you can't have him as the club captain anymore, because you have to pick someone that is on board. I'm guessing that John Suter is that man, because he's not apparently on this list, and he's also only got a year left, and as well as Tav and Raskin. So you'd maybe have expected him to have been there if he's a part of a disruptive leadership group, but maybe not. So I'll be very interested on that perspective, if one or both of them are still here, how are they going to be integrated back into the team then? Is he going to drop Raskin permanently? Is he going to put him into the youths like he did with Nsiala? And I would expect, if Tavernier's still here, he has to remove him as captain, because you can't have that. How can you build a harmonious team if the person in charge of your team is apparently against you?
Jack, I do feel it's end of days for Russell Martin anyway, but that really would be end of days stuff, wouldn't it? To removing a captaincy of a captain who's been that for 8-9 years.
Yeah, I don't see it, but I think if it was going to happen, sorry, it would have happened already. Tavernier, he's got the year left. I think plans are already in place for a testimonial. I don't see Tavernier leaving unless something big happens. But if Tavernier was going to be this disruptive force in the dressing room, arguing with managers, I'm sure he would have done it at some point in the past, with a Pedro or a Michael Beale or whoever. I don't know. There's always been rumours that Tav can have a strange attitude, but it's never been anything publicly, and I just don't see it from him. So I expect Tav to still be here. Raskin, not so much, sadly. But yeah, if he removes Tavernier, I think that's just going to split the dressing room even more than it clearly already is. And I don't think that's something even Martin would risk.
Billy, this goes on to the bigger story of Russell Martin, which I know we've talked about in various pods since midweek's result. But a kind of big story yesterday was the Rangers Fan Advisory Board. Basically, really, I don't want to read the whole statement, but their statement called for Russell Martin to be removed. Now, you might think, well, what does it matter? But they do have, contacts with the club. They do meet the club regularly. So as much as I don't know who these people are, that is a big voice that for once in my entire history of supporting Rangers, pretty much all the fans are on board with one message.
They are, and I mean, I tend to be I try to kind of look slightly longer term. I always try to look at Rangers when I'm getting kind of like upset about something, which is regular at the moment. I try to look at Rangers as if they're another club and go, right, if you'd seen this situation and this manager coming in and these are the results, what would you think? And you'd go, well, he's got them to Europa League and he hasn't lost a league game yet. So there's that. However, you then put it into context. It's like, he keeps talking about, this situation he had at Southampton where once things were up and running, they go on this 25, 26 game unbeaten streak. That's not going to be any use here because by the time he gets us up and running, the league could well be done and dusted. If we lose on Sunday, which is entirely possible, then, we're 4 wins behind overtaking Celtic across a season. The Fan Advisory Board, it's interesting to see them doing that because there's a suggestion that the 49ers were going to get rid of Daniel Farke at the end of last season, and it was actually the fan mobilisation that convinced them to keep him in place. So they do listen to the fans. They are money driven at the end of the day. So if they think it's going to hit the bottom line, and European attendance recently would suggest it might start to do, then when I look at this just now, if I'm the 49ers and I'm thinking, yikes, we might have made a mistake here, I'm not sure I get rid of Martin just now. I think what I might do, and say, for example, you're looking at someone like a Steven Gerrard, someone who knows the club, who can come in and not have to learn as much and hit the ground running. Sadly, I think if that was your thinking, you leave Russell Martin in for at least the next game, and then you've got the kind of international window to kind of try and do the changes and kind of. But if you stick with them and you don't make the change, am I right in saying it's the international break before the Hearts and Hibs games? Is that correct? Yeah. So
I believe it's just after this game.
So if you then stick with them after the Celtic game, you're going into 2 very challenging matches where if things go worse, you're then going to make a change literally in the middle of the season with no real breathing space for an alternative to come in. So I think what happens post the Old Firm game is going to tell us what the 49ers thinking is maybe for the rest of the season, because if you're going to make a change that is materially going to impact this season, you do it after the Celtic game, because after the Celtic game, you can give a manager a chance to kind of actually embed his ideas and you make a difference before we come back. If there's no change after the Celtic game in that international break, then there's a chance that the 49ers have just decided they're going to let Russell Martin try and embed this system. And if they have to punt him at the end of the season, they do that. And like it or not, that is the kind of cold-blooded thinking that we were all aware the 49ers are going to bring. They don't care week to week, Paragmarat, etc. They're looking at the bigger picture, whether or not they think that this is enough of a panic now. And the other thing they have to think of it as an executive level. If we make a change now, that's it. That manager has to be given a season and a half minimum, because you're getting to a stage, if we become one of those clubs where we're changing managers every 10 games or every 6 months, A, you make success more difficult, B, you become a bit of a joke, and C, serious managers are looking at that, and you'd have to be pretty desperate as a manager to take a gig like that. If you want serious managers to come, you have to give them serious support. So I would suggest, if we're getting rid of Russell Martin, it's post the Celtic game. If not, I think he might be there for the season.
What might come into the thinking, Doug, for the 49ers? I mean, I don't watch a lot of American football, but I know the San Francisco 49ers don't win every single game, and I know there's no pressure for them to win every single game. I know that Leeds United don't need to win every game, and there's not the pressure to win every single game for them. But Rangers is a different club. Billy mentions there that that would be 4 wins away from overtaking Celtic if we go down. Well, that's 4 games, and that's the stage. I really don't see how they can pursue with this fan base, because it's going to be an empty stadium.
Yep. I mean, it's both a cultural and, as well as in my opinion, a practical aspect of owning and running Rangers Football Club. From a cultural point of view, you see we're a club that demands the highest standards, which is winning every game we can, winning every trophy that we enter, or we maybe give a slight bit of leeway for European football, where we want to play well against other big teams. We want to get far in the tournaments. That's probably the only thing you get given a little leeway in. But even on a practical level, I made this point, I think about a week or two ago. Russell Martin's primary success was his promotion with Southampton. And he did that with a win percentage of 54%, because he didn't actually win the league. They were, I think, 4th, and so he got into the playoffs and won that, which is still an achievement. Playoffs are very difficult, big games. But he did it with a 54% win percentage. If you're going to win the league, the way our league runs, you're looking at having to have a 70 to 75 plus win percentage, because basically you've got 2 teams that beat primarily everyone else. And so you by necessity have to win pretty much every game, because otherwise you don't win the trophy, and that's the one thing that we demand is that trophy. So both on a cultural and a practical level, you have to win every game. And so you need to have both ownership and management that understand that practical and pragmatic aspect. And I think that's the key that we've really missed in the last few managers. They've not been pragmatic enough to go, right, what I'm doing isn't quite working, and I need to just start winning stuff. So I'm going to change it to, I've got these guys here, I can maximize him by doing this and him by doing that, and the defense by setting these guys up that way, and that'll win us things. And then maybe in another 12 months, I can get to playing the way I want to with X, Y, and Z. Whereas, I think particularly with the last manager and this one, we've got these philosophical guys that have their philosophies that they're basically stuck to, because that's been the trend, is to have your philosophy of football and to stick to that, because it will come good eventually. And that's just, you might get the leeway at other clubs to get the time for it to come good, or it might only need to come good to 80% to be enough at other clubs, but that's not going to be the case here. The only thing I'll add to what I have a slight disagreement with what Billy said, in that football managers, I think nowadays know that their jobs are short term, because that's the way football works nowadays. And football is an ego-driven game. So I think that while there certainly will be people that will go, that's not for me, first and foremost, if they're sitting there going, that's not for me, for any reason at all, they shouldn't be the Rangers manager in the first place, because they should be someone who, even if it is a Russell Martin type that comes in and goes wrong, they need to be someone that has a total belief in themselves, and that will come in and be confident and have that ego, because you do also need that to stand up to those rigours. But it has to be tempered with that pragmatism, and that's what, as I say, that's what I feel that we're missing from our management right now.
Jack, Doug talks about ego. Well, what do you make of this comment?
I would be all for it. I think one of the issues with Martin is he's not a winner. He's never won a trophy unless you count that little one they get for winning the playoffs. That Southampton team, he talks about a 22-game unbeaten run. They never won more than 4 games in a row. Getting promoted. We need a guy with a winner. Look at Jose's CV. Football may be a bit beyond him at the top level now, but that CV is a winner's CV, and that's something we need in the dugout and in the playing squad. We need guys that know what it takes to go over the line, know what it takes to win. That's something we've been badly missing. And as much as Jose can be seen as a dinosaur and a bit controversial, and at Scottish Premiership level, he would still be the best manager in this league, and I'm including Rodgers in that. He wins trophies. That's what he's done. He won trophies at Roma. He won them at Inter. Basically, every team other than Fenerbahce and Spurs, because it's the Spurs. The only issue is the timing. He's only just been sacked. How soon would he want to go back into football is my question. The same with the links to Solskjaer. These guys are just out of job. Are they going to want to go in and contractually can they go right back in without losing a payoff? I don't know. But if he's up for it, no matter what happens against Celtic, ask the question. International break would be perfect time. Another issue though is he plays a complete opposite style of play than what we're looking to implement, which is what I think might put the higher ups off what would be, in my opinion, a good guy to bring in.
Billy, I'll ask your opinion on the managerial candidates that Jack just mentioned. Solskjaer or Mourinho, any of these names get your heart going?
Yeah, they get my heart going, but more in a get me a defibrillator sort of way, not in a kind of. I mean, Jose Mourinho, no for me. Like Jack mentioned, pragmatically, he is the opposite of the style the 49ers want to embed. So he'd be inheriting a squad that isn't to his liking. He is a manager in decline and has been for years. Like it or not, he's worked his way down the leagues and he's not being successful in these positions. He's getting bumped out. There's also the fact that he's on the record that his way of playing is with experienced, seasoned pros. He's not a guy who's got any history of coming into what we've got now, which is like a team of some promising players to get developed. He's literally, that's not his CV, that's not his background, it's not his skill set. You add in the fact that he's in decline, you add in the fact that he doesn't have, I don't think, his record recently is all that. He doesn't have the sort of the philosophy the 49ers want. And I'll be honest, I don't like Mourinho. I don't like a guy that goes up behind an opposition manager and sticks his finger in his eye. I don't like it. I don't like a guy that gets a manager run out of the game, Anders Frisk, by insinuating that that he was at it when he was at Chelsea, and gets death threats and everything, like pile on to the referee. I don't like it. I like the idea of a manager who wins Celtic up, but you can have your Walter Smiths and your Steven Gerrards who do that with dignity and do it a Rangers way. I don't like how Mourinho does business. Win at all costs is fine, but he hasn't really won at all costs recently. He's been found out, and for me, it's a hard no if you hadn't already worked out where that was going. Solskjaer, he's a name. He was at Man United. He kind of bumbled along. I haven't really followed his career since then, but he's not. There's nothing about him that made me go, that's the guy for Rangers. So no, neither of those have me particularly excited. Someone may have an update on Solskjaer that maybe revises that for me, but neither of those would be guys that for me are anything other than names at the moment.
Doug, we still have a head coach in place, so for us to talk about this really just doesn't mean anything other than we're just airing our own kind of frustrations at the moment with things. So we will move on from that subject. So we already kind of covered Tavernier, Raskin, and Dessers, but two other players that made some strange social media posts last week's was by Rami and Cortez, respectively. They put kind of I don't know if they were Bible verses with a funny sepia picture on it, but it was something like that, indicating that they were wanting out. Cortez for me would be one if we can get him away. I think it would have to be a loan with an option to buy, or what's the other one? But you have to buy him. Can't remember that word. Sorry. Would you happy to get him out the door? Obligation. That's it. You happy to get Cortez out the door if he goes?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, he's obviously both him and Rami. I mean, I'm disappointed more than. I mean, I'm not happy that we've had a player and he's done nothing, and then we're probably going to lose money on him. So, I'd just be disappointed would be my main thing. But he's quite clearly not in Martin's plans. He's not getting anywhere near the team. Neither is. I mean, Brami's gotten slightly closer to the team. But obviously doesn't seem to be in favour either. He got taken out of the European squad, although there were probably more practical aspects there, certainly given that we had 0 left backs. So someone unfortunately had to go. I mean, Bajrami, I think, will sell quite easily. Clubs will be interested in him. It'll just come down to the value and the cost and that kind of agreement. But there's definitely been interest for him. For Cortez, yeah, I'd agree with you. It's probably more likely that he'd go out and loan first. It's a difficult sell. Here's this player. He's played 8 times in the last 12 months. Why is that? Oh, no reason at all. So yeah, like you say, I think a club that take the smarter route than we did and go, right, well, we'll take him with an option rather than taking them with an obligation as we chose to do. It's disappointing. I think he has looked like he had something about him at times. And even in pre-season, he set up a goal. He looked okay. I thought he put in some decent shifts defensively, which is something that we need occasionally from our wingers. And we could have absolutely used that against Bruges. Because I don't think either of our wingers were pretty good, any good defensively in that match. But yeah, like I say, he's nowhere near the team. So if he's not going to be, then you're as well as getting him out. And that goes for, I'm seeing in the comments there, people mentioning like some Matondo as well. These players that aren't in plans, aren't in the team, getting anywhere near the team. You just need to try and get shot at them.
Jack, I'll come to you on by Rami. He seems to me a player that was signed without really any reason behind it, one of those agent signings. Not really the right league for him, not the right team for him, not the right system for him. I don't really know what his best position is. He was shoved out in the wing sometimes played as like a number 10, but scored a great goal against Alloa, but it is against Alloa. But you happy enough if we can get him out the door?
It's a tricky one. If you'd asked me this at the start of the summer, I would have said yes, because I thought he looked disinterested a lot of the time last year. I actually think system-wise, he's done an excellent job. I think it was 4 times against Celtic, the 3 games unbeaten at the end of the season, and the League Cup final. Martin Callum McGregor completely nullified him in each of those games. But you can't be paying $3.5 million for a guy to play 5-6 games at the most this season. But yeah, at the start of the summer, I thought, yeah, get rid of him. His attitude's rotten. But he actually impressed me. It had a cameo against Motherwell a couple of times in pre-season and then against Alloa. It looked like he got his head down. He looked like one of the few that actually seemed to be buying into what Martin was saying and performing well when we did actually see him. So I'm a bit surprised that Martin's wanting to get rid of him, but I'd be up for selling him, or obviously a loan with an obligation. Same thing, really. But if we're putting him out on loan, it just seems a bit, I don't know, disappointing. Because his links with a Sevilla loan, and it just seems like we're kicking the can down the road for a guy that could probably do a job in this first team better than some of the guys akin to Kieran Dowell, who are still kicking about.
Right, guys. Well, I'll bring up this the draw again for Europa League group stages, just to remind everyone. So I don't have the fixture dates set yet, but this is the teams in home and away. So Roma at home, Porto away, Braga at home, Ferencváros away, Ludogorets at home, Sturm Graz away, Genk at home, and Brann away. I'm happy enough with that draw. At least it gives us something to play for. Hopefully, if the team get in a better shape and looking to play a bit better, despite who the manager or head coach is, I just want Rangers to win. We've got some content coming up on Sunday, pre-match and post-match for the Celtic game, and also on Monday evening at 6 o'clock we will do the transfer deadline day show. We will stay live for as long as possible to bring you any last minute transfers that come in or indeed go out. I think there will be a bit of action in that. So let me just go around the panel and thank everyone for coming on. Jack, I'll go to you first. Thank you for coming, mate. Anything we didn't discuss you wanted to bring up?
The only other thing I would say, it's going to be interesting to see Jose taking on Roma again when he comes in.
Indeed. Billy, thanks for coming on. And was there anything you wanted to bring up that we've not mentioned?
Two very quick points. Just Curry had said Billy Martins or Jose. That's a wee bit of a false binary. You're asking me to choose who's the worst. If you were saying Martins or Gerrard, I might have to have a think about that. And the only other thing is just to say, we've got Roma at home. Fair will be there trying to get one of our stands shut. So I hope everyone's on super good behaviour that night. I'm sure we will be because that's what we do. But still, just be aware they will be slavering when they see that draw.
Thank you, Billy, for coming on. Doug, I'll ask you as well. Was there anything that we wanted to bring up news-wise?
Nothing extra. I'll just say to Billy's point, I wouldn't worry about that. There'll be nobody in the stands by that point. So there will be nobody to sing anything bad. And just to add to the Mourinho Solskjaer, no Mourinho, but I'd be interested in Solskjaer actually.
Okay, I'm going to look into what his manager style is actually, because I don't know much about him rather than Man United. But yeah, everyone, thank you very much for your comments on the side. Thank you very much for watching the pod. It's always good to do this. Again, if you like listening to podcasts, this podcast goes out on all your usual podcast apps like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and the rest. So please go and have a listen to us there. Please like and subscribe. We really could do with you over at YouTube to subscribe to the channel over there. That's what actually brings in some cash to pay for this stuff. So thank you very much for everyone that's done that. So yeah, please go and do that. Everyone, thanks again, and remember, every night is a Rangers Journal night.